Hey everybody, I wanted to record this video to talk about how to survive an insurance audit. So I know for a lot of people this is a big fear when it comes to taking insurance in private practice, and I wanted to record this video to give you some tips and also to tell you about my audit experiences and that they really haven't been that bad at all. So I'm an LCSW. I've been in private practice for 10 years, and I've been through quite a few audits since I've been in private practice. My last audit was in January of 2019, and it was not a big deal at all. I was contacted by Inovalon, a company that Anthem contracts with, to do their reviews, and they basically sent a request to me for 3 clinical records. They provided the names of the clients and the dates of service that they were interested in. And once I got the letter, I contacted the case auditor, who was very helpful and friendly, and she wasn't mean or nasty at all. She was just really helpful. And I just had a few questions for her. So basically I asked her, do you need the entire record? And if you don't need the entire record, what specifically do you need from me? Because I really want to be careful about the records I'm sending. I don't want to send more information than I need to the insurance company. So she was really patient and willing to answer my questions, and basically told me she wanted my assessments, my clinical notes, my treatment plans, and any discharge summaries that I had. So once I knew what she wanted, I just went to my EHR, which is Simple Practice, and I downloaded all the information that she wanted from it, and I put it in a large PDF file, and then I just uploaded it to the link that she gave me to upload the confidential information to. And it was really simple. That was it. Next, a couple weeks went by, I didn't hear anything. I really didn't even think much more about it. And then I received a letter from them, and it just had like a 92% accuracy rating from the review. They gave me no feedback, no complaints about my charts, and I never heard another thing about it. So I just wanted to share that story to let you know that most audits really are not a big deal. That's how most of my audits have gone. I've never had any problems from them. And I wanted to put this little infographic together to give you some tips in your private practice to help you if you do have an audit, or if you're scared to start taking insurance, to help you understand what the audit process is about. And also, I'd love to hear your stories. If you've been through some audits, if you've had really great stories, or if you've had some horror stories, I'd love for you to add that in the comments below this video to let everybody know what you've been through and how you survived it. So my first tip is just make sure that your documentation meets CMS standards. So this is the Center for Medicaid Services. This is a good thing to go by. You can Google it for your state and just see what they say the documentation requirements are for your state. This can help you just get a general idea of what your documentation should look like. So I would also recommend, if you're paneled with certain insurance companies, you can put together an Excel spreadsheet where you put everything in regarding documentation that the different insurance companies require. And then once you have that, that can sort of guide your creation of your assessments and your progress notes and all of your documentation standards. So I did something similar to that, and that's how I came up with my note and my assessment note. And if you're interested in seeing my note for a template, feel free to message me. I'll be happy to send it to you. So the next thing I would recommend is be sure to ask if your participation is mandatory in the audit. Sometimes it's optional. I've heard this. People have told me this. It's never been optional for me, but it's definitely worth asking. You might be able to get out of the audit. So I would just recommend asking if you're going to talk to the case auditor. Next, wanted to let you know that most insurance companies will allow you time to correct your mistakes. So they usually have like a pass-fail rate for audits. Like an example of that would be an 80% accuracy rate. So if you do better than 80% on their audit, you're fine. They're just going to say you passed and they'll be finished with you. If there are any problems, they're going to give you time to correct your mistakes and update your documentation and get your treatment plan and your assessments up to par with what they're expecting. And in some cases, they can give you 6 months to even a year to get your documentation in place. So just keep that in mind. And that leads me to the next tip. You're really not going to fail an audit unless it's just terrible, unless you have no documentation and it's just, a really bad situation. But I don't think most of us are in that place. So mostly, like I said, they're going to offer suggestions as to what you can do to make it better, and they're going to help you with that. So sometimes it can actually be helpful. I know that's hard to believe, but it can be, to get your documentation up to par. So the next thing I want to say is the insurance companies are not going to swarm your office like they're the FBI. So a lot of us have this picture like we're just going to be in a session and all of a sudden they're going to show up and knock on the door and they're going to demand all these charts, and it's just going to be really traumatic and terrible. So I'm here to tell you that's not how it happens. Basically, what happens is they send you a letter, and in the letter, they'll tell you which cases they want to review, and they're going to let you know this ahead of time. They're going to give you plenty of time to provide the information to them. Sometimes they'll even allow you to pick the charts that you want to share with them. So sometimes you can even just pick your best charts and give it to them and know that you're going to be fine. So usually they'll just ask for the records. They're not going to come into the office in most cases. I've heard like Medicaid will come in, but really for the most part, they're just going to ask you to upload the records, either fax them to them, upload them, or mail them the records is usually how they do it. So the next thing I want to say about surviving an audit is double check what you're required to provide. You may not need to send the whole chart. So in my case, I had a request for somebody I'd been seeing for 5 years, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to send this whole chart. It's going to take me forever to get all this together. But I went back and looked, and they were actually only requesting for 6 months of service. So I was able to just pull that chunk out and send that in, and I didn't have to mess with the whole chart, which was a relief. So I would say just double check the dates and also particularly what they're requesting in the letter that they send you. So next, a little tip is I've heard that Magellan's documentation guidelines are really stringent and that they stand up to most audits. So I found a guidance document from Magellan, and I've got that. I'm going to drop it in the comments so you can look at it and just see what standards they expect, and then you can compare it to the information or the documentation that you already have and using in your practice. So I hope that'll help too. And lastly, if you're unsure about how to handle an audit or what to provide when they call and ask for records, you can always contact your liability insurance company. Most liability insurance companies have free lawyer consultation hours that they provide you with each benefit year. I'm with CPH, and I think they give me 2 or 3 free lawyer hours a year. So you can definitely reach out and ask questions if you're not sure what to do if you get an audit request. So I hope this information helps. I hope it eases your mind a little bit about what to expect if there's going to be an audit. And again, it's really not that big of a deal. And I hope it doesn't keep you from taking insurance in your practice, because insurance has made it a lot easier for me. I don't have to market. I get a lot of direct referrals, and it's just keeping my practice full. So I hope you'll consider it as well. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or leave comments below this video, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thanks a lot, and I hope this helped.